It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Dr. Mike Gustafson. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today until 6 o'clock. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments in the Yates Flooring Center chat line at Double T 97.3.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. We'll have the high school fans on for you coming up tonight at 7 o'clock on 100.7 The Score. And then tomorrow, Red Raider football with Joey McGuire here on Double T 97.3. Gus, how you going?
I'm good, man. What are you doing?
I'm good.
Any revelations over the last 21 hours?
I mean, I bought a lottery ticket because the Powerball's up to $700 million. The cash prize is $335, give or take. So if I'm not here tomorrow, that's why.
Understood.
Yeah. Really nothing. I mean, kind of this weird. Kind of feels like I've been in a sports desert the last couple of weeks because you have the open week for the Red Raiders. And they do play on Saturday, obviously. They played West Virginia. They beat the brakes off of them. We thoroughly enjoyed that game. But World Series starts on Friday, so there's not, a bunch of MLB games to kind of like pay attention to. NBA is so early that it's, I don't know. I just haven't gotten started with that yet. Lakers are a mess.
Yeah. I hate that for Darvin Ham.
Sure do.
But
I feel like Russell Westbrook is catching most of those lightning strikes, so to speak. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird spot in the sports calendar, and it will start back up, and the Tuesday night MAC action will help here in a couple of weeks. But we get this in the Yates Flooring Center chat line from Shelley. AD, do you have a backup pair of flip flops? If so, can Clint borrow them on Monday? I don't have a backup pair of flip flops. I may just rock the same pair. These are actually Croc brand, and they are very comfortable.
Delightful.
Yeah, and if I did have a backup pair of flip-flops, obviously I would in no way, shape, or form share them with Clint under any circumstances. Absolutely not.
I would probably turn down the used flip-flops. That makes it any more fair.
Yeah.
From like my end.
Because there's no barrier. Even though it's like at the same time
barrier.
There's
one thin layer of gabardine between his boys and us.
It's like in the past, when I've been outside taking the dog out or whatever, there's a bug, and it's like, okay, do I step on it? But I've got bare feet. At the same time, it's like, what am I doing with my feet? Who cares? I'm not eating with my feet. I'm not putting the feet on the table, the countertop, and I'm not unloading the dishwasher with my feet. Who cares if I get some bug guts on my feet?
No matrimonial fun and games with your feet?
No Rex Ryan action.
No.
Yeah. Who cares? So what are you so scared of that your feet, the bottom of your feet might get a little dirty? Like what are you doing with your feet?
I don't know, some sort of obscure fungal thing going on from toe to toe. You never know.
Are you saying that I have foot fungus?
Maybe.
Athlete's
I don't know.
Foot?
I haven't
gingivitis?
I haven't inspected your feet, and I don't really want to.
Yeah.
So
that's fine. No, I'm not saying that I have like amazing feet. It's just
it's the fact that on the old flippy floppies.
Don't take a picture. What are you doing?
Setting them on a special site to make some extra cash, huh, Gus?
Yes, exactly. Hello, ladies.
How about that one gal that made a crap ton of money selling her farts?
Yeah. Did you said crap ton for like a perfect.
Yeah. Let me see if I can Google this without getting sideways with the internet filter here.
Firewall.
That's not the stuff that's going to get blocked. You know this. Now, sports betting. How dare we?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Farts in a bag. That's a green light all the way.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she made $200,000 before retiring after having a false heart attack. I guess she was.
Is she a professional worker?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, she would I think, manage her diet in a way to kind of get the best bang for your buck, so to speak.
But was there something about her that made gentlemen want to partake in this?
Well, I mean, I don't know what that looks like. I mean, because
that's
that's
not
not really
a
my
model.
bag.
She's not a model.
No,
she's not a
decent,
famous person. Or
no,
whatever.
it's not like Cindy Crawford in her prime. I mean, she's a decent looking gal. I mean, it's not like she's hideous or anything.
No, what we were. Yeah.
Maybe they're going off of like specific fart tones, like, what note can you pull off?
Yeah, I'm detecting notes of cherry and muskwood and
And Van Camps.
a little coal. This from Shelley. You ask one question about flip flops, and 2 minutes later, look where we are. Lesson learned. It's all your fault, Shelley. It really is.
One of our many female listeners.
I was tuning into the bottom line a second ago before the show. I always like to see what Clint and Jamie are up to. Most of the time, it's talking about the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile or something.
Yeah, important stuff.
But an interesting kind of discussion, at least I caught the end of it, was, hey, is this almost more of a must-win game for Baylor than it is for Texas Tech in terms of bowl eligibility? Because the Red Raiders have home games left, I would say winnable home games left against Kansas and Oklahoma. I think you can go up to Ames and win. The Cyclones aren't, I mean, hell, they're winless in the conference right now. TCU will be tough, but I mean, you have some options here. Whereas they play in Norman, they host Kansas State, they host TCU, and then they play at Texas. And so at 4-3, they need 2 more, just like you do. It would seem to me that the rest of their way is a bit more challenging than the Red Raiders' closing path.
Yeah, that's interesting. That may speak to the 1-point spread.
This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line for Mr. Roy. Did y'all hear why she quit? The beans and peanut butter diet gave her terrible gas. Internet. Suck it, Steve. No, I said Mr. Roy. I was deliberately trying to avoid that.
Well,
just finish your apple, dude. Yeah.
It's almost done.
Okay, finish it.
Been a crisp, delicious, healthy snack.
Oh, nice.
Getting the hotkeys all sticky with.
Think if you had an apple slicer, dude, that would have been so clean.
Yeah, because you could have used a fork at that point.
You really could have.
I didn't even think about that this morning. I was like, man, if only there were some way for me to easily cut this up on the go, so I didn't have to.
Sure.
Clint, why did you bring a knife to the studio? Right?
Oh no, the apple slicer. I'm baffled by this. So. And I'm not the least bit interested in the actual. There's nothing romantic about that or titillating about that. Smelling.
See, there are so many weird things that women can do to earn money like that.
Right.
And hey, if that's your deal, if that's your hustle, hey, hats off.
Yeah.
Stack that paper.
$200 grand doing that.
No shade here. No looking down.
Paid off my house.
Go get that paycheck. There's really nothing that dudes can do like that.
No.
There's not really a market for our gas. There's not a market for our tidy whities. There's just not. Those avenues are blocked off to us.
It's all about marketing, Aaron. It's all about marketing.
Nobody's getting on the pay-per-view channel to watch you light your farts or anything.
How do you know you've got to channel 948?
Exactly.
More Tech Talk next.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, it's the Juice on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. The Juice brought to you by our friends at Specs Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods. 2 convenient locations here in town. 4th Street and the West Loop behind the Whataburger, and also 69th Street and Slide Road. And if you can't get out and about today, you can always go to specsonline.com as well. Time for some headlines. New York Yankees owner Hal Steinbrenner plans to keep Aaron Boone as his manager. Boone agreed last year to a 3-year deal with a team option for 2025. He just finished up his 5th season as skipper of the Yankees. Yankees have not appeared in the World Series since winning their 27th championship in 2009. Adam Wainwright will pitch for the St. Louis Cardinals next season, choosing to return for an 18th season while the club waves goodbye to teammates Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina as they go into retirement. Are you pleased with this news as a fan of St. Louis?
Yeah, I mean, the sentimental side of it for sure. He wasn't great down the stretch this year, although he had a pretty good year for 40 whatever years old. But I think they're built to have 7 or 8 starter candidates next year, so that if he starts pitching like a 42 or 43-year-old, they've got, I think, a way to cover it. But yeah, I may need to look into another late September St. Louis emotional goodbye trip. I thought I was just going to do one of those a generation, but hey, if we got to do that every other year, I'm okay with it.
He's 5 wins away from 200 on the career.
Yeah, very nice.
And while I think pitcher wins have maybe not been valued as much in today's game as they have in the past, still a significant milestone. He'd be he's 3rd right now in terms of most wins in franchise history behind Jesse Haynes. He's 15 behind Jesse Haynes. And then, Bob Gibson leads the way with 251. Not going to catch him.
Nope.
And finally, USC's and UCLA's upcoming move to the Big Ten has not been popular with their supporters. If you ask Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff during Pac-12 basketball media days today, he said he's spoken with more than 100 people connected to both programs and says the consensus has been against the move to the Big Ten. You buying that?
I don't know. I mean, it's probably not hard to find somebody that's not happy with it.
Sure.
I mean, you could find somebody, and I don't think it's 1 out of 100, but you could see where there's people going, I prefer, just like there's folks that are, that are pining for the Southwest Conference, Southwest Conference Big 12 original Big 12 days. You could see where that, I don't want to play Michigan State. I want to play Stanford every year, that kind of thing. So Kliavkoff's probably spinning that a little in his direction, but and he's certainly spinning it he's got business interests in it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
hard to believe.
I'm sure that there are probably, I think the group or groups that would maybe be most against this move in terms of percentage, and I think still the majority of these people are probably pro moving to the Big Ten. But I think the groups that would probably have the most significant amount of opposition would be former players and administrators, because they have ties and memories to those places like Cal Berkeley, Stanford, Oregon State, Washington, that the rank and file fan doesn't. If you're Reggie Bush, and I don't know what he feels about it, that's just an example, but if you're Reggie Bush, you played games. Maybe you played a memorable game in Autzen, right? Maybe you played a memorable game at Cal. And by leaving those programs behind, you kind of leave that memory behind as well. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if the people that he talked to,
right,
if he heard some folks that were, pining for the Pac. But I think from a rank and file fan standpoint, we've seen this over and over, Gus. There is something appealing, at least in the short term, about your program being invited to an exclusive club, right? Not even just, and it's not even as much about, hey, the positive of moving into the exclusive club. It's your team's poor now. We're leaving you suckers.
Sure.
We've been telling you for years that we're better than you. right? We've been telling you for years that our program is far and away way too good to hang out with you losers, and this is just validation of that. So enjoy, eating ramen noodles and beanie weenies and, government cheese, and we're going to go sip champagne in the Players Lounge.
Yep.
It's
yep, sure. It's exact feeling the remainder of the Big 12 was left with when OU and Texas left and announced that they were leaving. And so then there's this tremendous amount of joy at their pain and their losing and anything crappy that happens. And I'm sure if you're the folks that are left behind or the folks that who don't support USC and UCLA leaving, you darn sure don't want to hear about, well, we had to sit on a plane for 4 hours to Michigan State the other day. Oh, well, tough break.
You can do knee highs for 4 hours.
Yeah, not
like Russell Wilson.
Exactly. Not our problem. Enjoy that. You signed up for it. We don't want to hear about it. Thanks.
And I mean, you could really say the same thing about, because as interesting as it would be for the Big 12 to add the four corner programs, right? And Tech is in a unique spot here more than most because you have lengthy history with Arizona. You've played Arizona State a good amount. Obviously, Colorado was in the Big 12 originally. So you're more connected to those programs in general than, say, Oklahoma State, right? But let's be honest, right? A big part of the appeal here is finally, as a fan of a Big 12 program, getting to say, look, people want to join us. After being dunked on for the better part of a decade, now the Big 12 is in disarray, and
just
everybody wants to get out.
Yeah, just a matter of time.
Dead conference walking, et cetera, et cetera. We've all heard it. We've all heard of the arrows and the slings. Being able to turn around and puff up your chest and go, actually, you know what? Suddenly, Big 12 is in a much better spot than the ACC. Suddenly, we just kneecapped the Pac-12, right? I would think, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but it seems like that's a big part of why everyone is so gung-ho about the idea. It's not about like, I can't wait for some games in Boulder in November.
That's a good point. I mean, the Colorado deal. I was thinking about this when you were saying this, and we could probably say this about Colorado as well, but it popped into my head about Missouri. And it just was thinking, has any of their sports flourished since they left this conference? And I know you and I don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about the softball, the quality of the softball or soccer or whatever beyond Texas Tech as it relates to the Big 12. But, I mean, I can't think of one thing that Missouri goes, boy, that's really – now, I'm sure they enjoy the extra $30 million a year and all that. Don't get me wrong. But just, their men's basketball has been bad.
Awful. Just terrible.
Yeah, really bad. No, I know you've got a
vested interest.
Yeah, vested interest in them being dismal. But
it would be even worse had they stayed.
Well, it certainly would in basketball, sure.
If things had kind of stayed the same. They did win those two SEC East titles right off the bat, like you said.
And they picked perfect time to be good when Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida were all sort of jacking around. It was right before Florida got their deal figured out, and to their credit, and they had some first-round pick defensive linemen and did some things right, but just they got nothing out of it. I mean, in terms of sustainability, and now they just limp every year.
Because
they circle Vanderbilt every year, and I hear this through the St. Louis media stuff, the little bit I listen to, they have to beat Vanderbilt every year to maybe get to 6 wins.
More Tech Talk next.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi there, it's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today until 6 o'clock. We'd love to hear your thoughts And your comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line at WC973.com. All guests appear via the Benchmark hotline. One of our frequent, I don't know, and Target is probably way too aggressive here, but some that you and I have talked about a decent amount, although less so recently. John Canzano, who is one of the, I would say, the two pillars of the West Coast media in terms of folks that report on, analyze, discuss, offer hot takes on regarding, realignment and media deals, et cetera. The other one being John Wilner, who writes for the, I believe, San Jose Mercury News. Canzano is a radio host, a statewide radio host in Oregon, longtime media fixture in that state. What's their nickname? The Oregon? I mean, what's the Oregon state nickname?
Keystone?
I thought it was Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Oh, the Beaver State. Okay. Well, I'm going to use that a lot now. So he's a fixture in terms of sports media in the Beaver State. He also has his own kind of newsletter deal that he sells subscriptions to. Well, anyways, he made a post earlier today, and this is kind of in the news because Kliavkov is talking, and he's at Pac-12 Media Days. And heck, Brett Yoarmark is talking too. He was in Waco just the other day, and he was in Orlando today, all kinds of media availability. Canzano's reporting that the Pac-12 CEO group will meet next week, where they are expected to, quote, drill down on the media rights negotiations. He says that he believes Amazon and ESPN are the most likely media partners for the Pac-12, but he says there could be a surprise third entry, maybe Apple TV Plus.
He's probably
maybe
Turner. Right to eliminate Fox.
Yes. He said that one source that he spoke with forecasted 3 to 4 weeks as the media rights timeline in order to have clarity, not necessarily a done deal, but at least clarity. And not quite sure yet if they will expand or not. He says he keeps on getting told that they're going to expand, but he's not sold on it. And obviously that makes sense because outside of San Diego State, which is far from some kind of like amazing 10 out of 10 option, there's really nobody else close. He mentioned maybe UNLV, maybe SMU. So I don't know. That part is interesting.
It's really hard to imagine those being the sort of additions that add value. Do they some stability, maybe get numbers up, whatever else? I mean, in terms of, maybe the addition of a couple of schools would help them survive and Arizona leave it. I mean, if some of those things unfolded a little later on, that they've already got things in house. But yeah, I don't.
Because there's such a step down between
big time.
Like you can, I get the San Diego State thing. Now their academics are not on par with what the Pac-12 likes to think that it is. And that's not academic smack by me. That's just an acknowledgement that they care more about the perception of academics than most conferences. Look where it got them. But hey, large enrollment, a lot of numbers. You're in San Diego. They seem to be athletically aligned in terms of they care about sports, which you can't really say about Cal or Stanford. But I mean, what does UNLV bring you? Okay, they're in Las Vegas, and like I recognize Las Vegas exists outside of the Strip, right? And we all kind of think of Las Vegas and instantly kind of view the Strip in our heads. But that's a legitimate city, and there are a lot of folks that do a bunch of different things. But is UNLV a big draw there? I don't think so.
Probably not. In their heyday, UNLV basketball was a big deal. Of course, they were a national power, but yeah, that's been under Tarkanian.
Yeah.
It's been sort of hit or miss with some of the coaches there since then. But in his tenure there was sort of strife with NCAA angst because it was always, UNLV players sitting in hot tubs with gangster or whatever, noted gamblers and all that. And this is back in the 70s and 80s, but they did win a national championship. And but yeah, it feels like even less so because there's, obviously an NHL team there and an NFL team there, and depending on what you believe, maybe an MLB team there, the Oakland A's, yeah, and so in that regard, you'd feel like, sort of what I've told you, old Sun Devil people have told me about, like back in the day in the 70s, they sort of had Phoenix to themselves, maybe shared it with the Phoenix Suns. Okay, that was cute. And then here came the Cardinals, and then hockey, and then MLB, and now it's like, yeah, it's just not the same. And the person wasn't saying nobody cares. He was just saying it's not the same as what I was specifically referencing late 1980s Sun Devil baseball. And he was like, yeah, it's not the same, just not the same. We've got 4 pro sports. And adding UNLV to the Pac-12 at just the moment they're talking about adding professional sports, it just feels like it would get pushed way down into the – I don't know what UNLV football would have to do to capture attention.
I don't know that it's possible.
I don't either.
And
I mean –
because you realize they've had one winning season in the last 20 years.
I mean, right.
How?
The only – they're the way that the Las Vegas pro sports teams operate – probably has as much to do with being tied in with just the overall Las Vegas tourism. So let me use my example. St. Louis Blues fans once a year, when the Blues go to play at Vegas, especially if it falls on a weekend, go out there, watch the Blues game, gamble, jack around, whatever. There you go. Probably especially true with the Raiders now. Like all of the NFL teams can go out there and watch. NFL fans can fall because it's usually they'll have some chilly winters. But if you're in if you're in New York or Green Bay or whatever, like that's
balmy.
Yeah, we'll go out there. Oh, it was 55 this weekend. Not a big deal. But you go enjoy the whole Vegas thing. I don't know that. Even if they join the Pac-12, if fans from Eugene I don't know. They would probably have a bigger road following than most. That you might go, yeah, I'll go watch Tech play at UNLV if they were in the Big 12. Every so often, especially for my friends that enjoy gambling and the whole Vegas scene, you could see where that would be, a better trip than
going. But that's not making more people watch on TV,
right? No,
that's
no,
not making more Vegas folks tune in or show up. I mean,
right.
This is hard to believe. In the last 20 years, one bowl game, right? In the last 20 years, half the time, 10 years out of 20, they have won 2 or fewer games. It's dead. Like it's just totally DOA. They've had however many different coaches over that time. I think maybe 5 or 6. They can't get it figured out.
And that's the sort of what you described as the sort of lingering effect that if somebody does come in there and turn it around, they're like, hey, that guy's doing a really good job. Let's go hire him because,
like if they were posting TCU like results, right, in the Mountain West or Boise State like results, I think that maybe you look at them differently because it's, hey, they're already good. There's potential there. If we put them in a bigger situation, give them more funds, who knows what they grow into, right? But, I mean, they're terrible.
Yeah.
They're just absolutely terrible. I mean, the high water mark in the last 20 years, a 7-6 season, and then they got a couple of 5 and 7s. It's just like terrible.
Yeah, that's
who you're going to pair up. Like that's one of your 2 big additions. Right.
I mean, if I were in the Pac-12, they would be higher on my list than most. But I'd probably pick them ahead of Fresno, right? No offense to Fresno, but it's got a bigger market, and there's some more sizzle attached to it. But it's those are 2 pretty big steps down. Again, I feel like the Big 12 getting BYU sort of handicapped the Pac-12.
More Tech Talk next.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, good afternoon. It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott. I'm Aaron Dickens. We're joining you today from the First United Bank Double T 97.3 studio, here with you until 6. We'll have the high school fan zone coming up for you at 7 o'clock on 100.7 The Score. Gus, I'm curious. You played Baylor this weekend. You're a slight favorite.
Mm-hmm.
You have home games left against Kansas and Oklahoma. You play at TCU. You play at
Ames.
Yeah, Iowa State. And for, I would say, most of the season, and certainly really all of this first half of the season, I think for the most part, you and I would sit here on weekdays and go, hey, just get to 6 wins. I don't care how it looks.
Sure.
You know, I mean, they can all be 1-point wins. Just, find a way to get to 6. And now that the Red Raiders are 4-3, they're closer to that goal, aren't they? They're just 2 wins away.
Yep.
I'm curious, do you, in your mind, from your perspective, in your opinion, has the lopsided results on Saturday, how well the team seemed to play together, how great the offense has looked so far under Baron Morton, notwithstanding the second half in Stillwater where he was a bit dinged up, has that maybe changed things for you in that now you kind of want to see some style points in these victories?
Oh, if it's allowed my mind to wander toward anything, it's like, hey, 7 or 8 wins wouldn't be a bad thing. That's what I've sort of found myself in the, that's crept into my mind a little bit. And I'm sure the guys in the locker room and the facility over there are way more focused than we are.
I think there's no question about that.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean they're way more
Really
focused
anything.
on the process and day-to-day type things than us going, hey, that's you mentioned earlier about Baylor circling this game as when they need to win and just based on the remainder of their season. And you mentioned Ames a second ago, and look at Iowa State sitting there at 3-4 with their 5 games left. They've got games in Stillwater and in Fort Worth, and so they've got to win their 3 home games against OU, West Virginia, Texas Tech.
That's right.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about it that
either.
way.
I was just glancing at this like, ooh, they're backed into a little bit of a corner. Of course, they're coming off an open week hosting the Sooners this weekend, but
If they can't score on the Sooners, then it's hopeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder, where their level of being defeated is getting later in that season, should they slip up in one of these next 3 games.
Well, I think if you're a Tech fan, you're hoping for 3 consecutive losses here, so that when you play them, there's nothing for them to play for.
There's no fever pitch up there.
I mean, it's not going to surprise me at all if they're still alive for a bowl game when you play them. But I don't know, man. Like, that's what a massive failure. I think we all, and maybe not we all, I think that Matt Campbell gets a significant kind of benefit of the doubt in terms of his bona fides as an accomplished and in-demand and plus coach because of what he has done at Iowa State. But they underachieved last year. They should have won the league. They should have at least played for the championship with Brock Purdy and everybody that they had there. They should have played for a championship.
Yeah, Purdy, who was taking snaps on Sunday the other day.
Yeah,
for whoever
the Raiders.
There you go. Yeah.
You think he goes to any UNLV games? No, anyway.
Nice.
And then now you get to this point where they're 3-4. They've dropped 4 games in a row. Their offense is atrocious. It's just terrible.
I mean, you just look down the list here, and in Big 12 games, they've scored 65 points, and the next lowest is 110. Almost double them. I mean, that's, it's not like 65 and then a 78 and then a 82 and a 94. It's like 65, 110, 115, 116.
And Kansas is a good team this year, right? They're a tough out for anybody, whether they have Jalen Daniels or not. They're way better with Daniels, of course, but their defense is not some super stout unit. It has not been. Clint's giving us the thumbs down there, and I assume that's because of the quality of their defense and not my take.
Paper mache defense.
Yeah,
And they've given up the third.
Did you like doing that as a kid?
I only remember doing it once, like in second or third grade, as a big group project, and we frustrated the teacher so much with our mess that she was like, "We're not wrapping it up. We're not doing this anymore."
Can't do.
Well, that's what you do with paper mache, right? Wrap it up.
No
Can't
more
do fun
volcanoes.
things. Yep.
When I was a kid, I like to think that I was ahead of the curve on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Mm-hmm. Like I was a fan before everyone else was.
Like when it was a comic book first.
And so my parents, and I think mostly my mom, made me a paper mache Ninja Turtle costume.
Oh.
Like, the front shell, the back shell, the whole deal.
Oh, that's how she simulated the shell.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got it. Yeah. Did it hold up for the
Yeah, no, it was
evening's
great. Got a lot of candy.
festivities?
This was before Rhonda ruined Halloween for me, by the way. Yeah. I told you that story last week.
Rhonda?
Were you not? Do you listen to what I
No,
say?
apparently not.
Yeah, the friend that my mother had for 3 years, who was Halloween is the devil's work, and so did I not? Were you not here when I said that? Was he not here?
I don't know.
I don't know if I was here for this, but I'm.
Oh,
Heard
you've
that
heard this before.
I'm
I've
all
heard
ears,
it before.
dude.
Yeah.
Hey, we got 3 hours. Let me repeat something back to you that you
true.
told me. I was really worried about telling the same stories or whatever, and you went, Gus.
Different audiences,
We've
sure.
got 3 hours every day to fill.
Rhonda was one of the types where it's like did you see the story of the mom in maybe East Texas who was cautioning folks on Facebook to not watch Hocus Pocus 2 because your kids will be bewitched through the TV by these witches.
They'll buy a vineyard in Lubbock, Texas. Ooh.
Yeah. Rhonda of that same ilk. Very, very glad, Facebook did not exist when Rhonda was roaming the streets as a, late 30s soccer mom. Anyways, so my mom and her
speak
became
to your manager.
Yeah, big time energy like that.
Oh, man.
Became friends and
Was she hot?
Huh?
Was she hot?
No.
Okay.
No. It's funny though. It's a good question.
Trying to find a one redeeming quality here.
In peak trick or treating age, right?
Sure.
The faucet gets turned off because of the satanic overtones.
Really? And it affected you
Oh,
and your joy of it?
Oh yeah, it's all Rhonda's fault.
Like you got taken out of the game or what?
I was retired.
Like Rhonda had that much influence on your mom? Is that
The
what you're
first
saying?
year was like, hey, you can dress up and trick or treat, but you can't. It's got to be a positive costume, which is fine. I did some Star Trek or whatever. And the next year was, hey, we're just going to buy you some candy.
Not some
not trick or treat,
not some
dress up.
murderous movie character
Yeah.
or whatever.
I always liked Leonardo. He had swords. More tech talk next.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon.
Get that AD.
It's Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com alongside.
Thank you. Setting the stage for this Saturday's concert. That and Tone Loc. That's good. You can save that clip. That was solid. Go ahead. Go ahead with the necessary radio work that you've got to do. Me and Clint and I are going to entertain ourselves over here.
With Mike Gustafson and Clint Scott, I'm Aaron Dickens with you until 6 o'clock. Would love to hear your thoughts and your comments. Your thoughts on Gus's singing voice on the H. Flooring Center chat line at doublet973.com. How about this? The NCAA has released some clarifications of its NIL policy. Okay? That sounds fairly dry and uninteresting, and perhaps it is. But we got 3 hours, so bear with us. Couple of interesting clarifications here from the NCAA. One of them is schools cannot negotiate deals, right? And
the schools can't be involved.
Schools
in it.
cannot be involved, and I wonder.
It should be, and I think the initial intent was that it was supposed to be between, Joe's car dealership or First National Bank and said player, right? I think that was the initial intent.
So you wonder, and I can pull up the actual NCAA text of these clarifications and read them, but it seems so opaque. It's kind of hard for me to kind of figure this out. But like the NIL portal that Texas Tech, released not that long ago, it was essentially like kind of NIL cameo for Tech athletics. And if you want, Miles Price to send you a video, you can book it through this interface.
And even some former athletes.
Sure,
remember?
yeah. Patrick Mahomes is like $10,000, something ridiculous like that. Does that count as? Because it's hosted on Texas Tech, websites. It's their service. You wonder if that kind of counts as, negotiating deals or being involved. And then another clarification, and I think this part is perhaps the most interesting, is schools can't provide free services like contract review, tax preparation, or even graphic designers.
Wow. Okay.
What?
I wish the idea of it as an inducement would have never gotten involved, but that ship has long sailed. You know what I'm saying? In other words, you get the athletes here, and they're through their notoriety and their accomplishments, or Twitter following, or whatever it is, that said restaurant, bank, car dealership, whatever, would reach out, and then things would happen, as opposed to, what we believe to be true about a lot of these. A Tennessee quarterback commitment that's got $8 million lined up, for example.
I don't know how I feel about the NCAA saying, hey, you can't do tax stuff for them.
You can't provide the services for them?
Yeah.
Interesting. I know that Tech's involved in a counseling process to make sure, hey, understand that if they hand you a check for $10,000, that what's going to follow next January is a 1099. That sort of counseling, but what you're describing there is they can't actually carry out the accounting services. We will help you with your return.
That seems more destructive than anything else. But to kind of go back to what you said about how you wish that the inducement aspect of this, never would have come up. I think that, and my use of this analogy is probably going to cause some folks to roll their eyes, which is fine. I don't suspect that either of you have ever heard of Ultima Online. Ultima Online was one of the first MMORPGs, one of the first online RPG games like EverQuest, like World of Warcraft, like Final Fantasy XIV, etc. And the designers of this, and we're talking like early 90s, the designers of this game spent a lot of time on like the virtual ecology. We're going to have herbivores and carnivores, these computer, beasts, and they're going to impact the grass and the wheat and all these different resources that the players can then harvest, etc. But the players just killed all the animals because by killing the animals, they gained a slight, it gave them some slight benefit, not a big benefit, and you had to like kill a lot of them to get any kind of substantial benefit. but by killing the animals, you got some slight benefit. It's the same thing here. People, players, coaches, they will min-max the fun out of anything in a video game, and they will seek out any advantage possible in any kind of system or format that you put forth that tries to limit them in any way, right? Like in hindsight, it was always going to end like this. For all of anyone's talk about, well, hey, Timmy, has a great. I mean, Nick Shimanek with his furniture business, right?
Right.
Or Timmy's YouTube channel where he does travel vlogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was always going to boil down to and result in coaches using this to bring in players. Just like, if you. Yeah, just like how every coach.
Awfully hard to regulate that. I mean,
it's hard. Yeah, of course it is, and that's why every coach in recruiting, if you're a quote good recruiter, right, and you're in demand and you're getting paid well and stuff, and the way you stay there is by grinding your rear end off and by always DMing these high school prospects and staying in constant contact with them. I mean, people lament how tireless and how kind of nonstop the recruiting calendar is, and how little break these coaches get from the grind. You go from season to off season to spring practice to camps and then recruiting. Well, it's because there is no regulated, mandated, just put everything down and go away, period. And if you're a coach, you're afraid if I take a 2-week vacation,
right,
if we go to Bali or something, and I'm not recruiting, John Doe from Cooper, yep, and Jimmy Doe from Friendship, not related, I'm going to fall behind him. We're going to lose him to Arkansas or to
right,
TCU.
Stay on top of it.
No doubt. And so, like, again, give an inch, take a mile. I just had really Ultima Online on my bingo card today, so I wanted to make sure to get that in there.
Yeah, it's solid. Yeah. Well done. Had no recollection of that. Had no idea what that was about.
Yeah, I would have been able to maybe give you kind of a better explanation of that story, because it's been a long time since I read it. But as you might imagine, as I went to pull it up after I kind of begun to talk about it, it was blocked by our internet filter.
Really?
Yeah.
And why?
Got Dikembe Mutombo'd.
I did, yeah.
With the finger? No.
I have a finger for our internet filter. It's not the Dikembe Mutombo one.
Goodness. Wow.
Is it the same one for Rhonda?
On a day?
Yeah, double rods, actually.
On a day that started with farts and mason jars. This.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Farts and Mason Jars sounds like a fake country band. Like a joke country band.
That seems to be, I think that would be the perfect name for your fantasy football team next year.
Farts and Mason Jars. Yeah. I'm going to wait till I draft Mason Tharp in the league so I can use
my
that.
first overall pick?
This in the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Why is it a big deal that they can't receive free tax services? My company doesn't do my taxes for me. Because it's a fairly marginal, relatively insignificant expense from a program standpoint, and the benefit to the athletes is significant. And, my guess is that most of these NIL deals aren't popping in like on a 1040 EZ. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not probably some kind of complicated deal. And Tyler Shuck, good luck.
Sure.
You've been listening to the Tech Talk podcast from Double T 97.3. Check out Double T973.com for more from Lubbock Sports Station.